Okay, hello everybody. I'm Geoff. I've been slowly winning the name of being Mandala Man or Geometry Geoff, which I'm quite liking lately. And the reason I've been called this is because I like to make these things, which are called mandalas. And tonight I just want to share with you kind of a rite of passage that I've been taking on because of my work with these wonderful shapes. So about 10 years ago I started making these shapes as kind of street art with a really good friend of mine, and I had these incredible experiences. Every time I worked with them, these extraordinary things were happening in my consciousness. You know, I had these really deep and profound experiences, and I really enjoyed them. I really wanted to explore them. So over time, I kind of refined this work to bring it to a slightly different set and setting, so I could dive a little bit deeper into the geometric qualities or meditative fruits of what were available in mandalas. So I made these were a little bit more, they were made, I could make them by myself at home for hours and hours and hours and dive a little bit deeper into the experience. And what I began to learn was somehow these shapes seem to have the power to encode information upon our psyches, you know, which at the time was a pretty mad idea. I didn't really understand how or why, but I was definitely having these experiences. So I continued to make these mandalas and just kind of slowly explored the power of number. So here's one I didn't make. This is one of the Grand Masters. It's a Tibetan art form which goes back 2,500 years. So mandalas are comprised of a whole load of different wonderful attributes, but because I've got 8 minutes and I'm trying to run through, you know, some of the high points of this experience, I'm going to focus on geometry, because geometry for me is one of the most potent ingredients in the mandala process, if you like. And I just want to explain how, like when I come out with these grand statements like, you know, number has the power to encode specific codes of information on our psyche and to inform us of certain philosophical truths. Like, you can imagine what my friends have said to me, you know, when I come out with things like this. Hasn't been very complimentary. So, in my attempt to explain how geometry can actually be encoded with information, I just want to go through a quick refresher course for some people who may have left school, okay, or haven't been in school in a while. But essentially, you know, geometry is nothing more lateral than simply converting the digits in the decad, 1 to 10, into their corresponding shape. So quite simply, the number 1 is a circle, the number 2 is a line, the number 3 is a triangle, the number 4 is a square, and so on. So once you've made this conversion, then number actually holds certain codes of information. It's just inherent in the actual shape. And we may not even know this consciously, but somehow different shapes have different qualities to them. And if we meditate upon them, and if we spend time really allowing these shapes drop into our psyches, like it's quite radical, the experience and the information that can come through if you open to it. So what I want to discuss tonight is just 2 specific shapes. Number 1 and number 4 are the circle and the square. And to try and explain how there is information encoded in these shapes. And then I want to share with you some examples of these squares and circles exhibited in the creative principle itself, and also in some ancient architecture that seem to point to the squared circle as well. So maybe just as a little experiment, if you let the circle drop into your mind's eye, and let the square drop into your mind's eye, and just as I flick between the two of them, just allow each shape inform your psyche in however it does. And I don't know if maybe you notice that there's a slightly different feeling tone to those 2 different shapes. So let me just get straight into the philosophical qualities of a circle, for example. Quite simply is a shape that represents infinity, because it has no beginning and it has no end. So this is like just, you know, something we all know intrinsically, but we may have never articulated it like that. Also, the relationship of a diameter of a circle to its circumference is this fascinatingly mysterious thing because of pi, this number 3.14, which goes on forever, it never repeats, it never ends. It's called a transcendental number. So with all of our quantum computers, all of the amazing technology we have today, we cannot accurately capture a simple shape like a circle. So the circle tends to point to the elusive, the mysterious, the unobtainable, the out of touch, the just can't quite get my hands on it type of feelings that we all confront in our lives. The square, by contrast, is the opposite of that. It is entirely rational. Once we have the diameter of a square, we multiply it by 4, we can get the measure of the perimeter exactly. So if it's 1 foot, it's 4 feet in total. So, okay, there's an ancient geometric exercise called the squaring of the circle, which is basically one of the most elemental and simple, but also profound geometric exercises that exists. And it's baffled, architects, philosophers, thinkers for millennia. And so I want to talk about one of the greatest expressions of the squared circle, which I've come to enjoy its presence in. It's in the relationship of the Earth and the Moon. So, working with these shapes has kind of opened me to this fact that there seems to be a great order behind everything, behind all material reality, from plants to the way our bodies are proportioned to the movements of the planets in our solar system. They're all based around these fundamental geometric shapes. So if we simply get the moon and pull it down so that it kisses the edge of the Earth, we create one of the most beautiful squared circles, 99.9% accurate. All you do is you draw a square to enclose the Earth, and then using the center of the Earth and the center of the moon, you draw the circle, and you end up with this squared circle, which is basically a square and a circle of exactly the same perimeter. So it's bringing into harmony these two opposites, and that's what squaring the circle does. And it's exhibited in the relationship of the rock we're standing on, the planet Earth, and its nearest satellite, the moon. So it's sort of beautiful to think that there's this order underneath these simple celestial bodies. You move out to Venus, it just starts getting crazy with the geometry. Never mind Jupiter and what Jupiter's doing with Saturn. It's beautiful, So, okay, because this is looking back into our past, and this is a rite of passage about what can our ancestors teach us, well, it's my explorations of geometry has brought me to the sacred architecture of the ancients. So, most especially the pyramids, the Great Pyramid in Giza. If we take that pyramid and put it into these 3 points, with the center of the moon and where the equator of the Earth touch, it's just happen chance or happy coincidence that the Great Pyramid fits these proportions exactly. We get an exact proportional representation of the Great Pyramid. And some people say, oh, that could be just a coincidence, Geoff. And I could say, okay, well, fair point. But then, if you actually just look at the geometry in the Great Pyramid, it exhibits the squared circle. Because the base is a square that's 4 sides, so simply when you look over the pyramid, it's this square. And if you take the height of the pyramid as the radius of the circle, and then you just draw a circle around the base, you get a perfect squared circle. Which makes me think that the architects of the pyramids definitely were pointing to these great geometric marriages, especially between the square and the circle. Okay, moving on. We've got, we got to look at the numbers very quickly because it'll make it more interesting when we look at Stonehenge, another ancient temple which is pointing to the squared circle. So it just happens to be that the combined radius of the Earth and the Moon is 5040 miles, and the diameter of the Earth is 7920 miles. So Stonehenge again, we can overlay this squared circle geometric pattern, and it's exhibited perfectly when we look at where the stones go into the ground. The blueprint of Stonehenge is this exact same squared circle, but not only that, when you measure the Earth circle, it's 79.2 feet, and the Moon circle is 2160, which gives you the same in feet. You've got 50.4 feet for the combined radius of Earth and Moon, and 79.2 feet for the Earth circle, which is exactly, even in the digits, using different modes of measurement, pointing to the same thing. Okay, so I know I'm at 8 minutes. I'm going to try and just get to the end of this, if I can, because what I wanted to say was like, why? The question we have to ask ourselves is, why were the architects of the pyramids, the architects of Stonehenge, why were they pointing to these geometric shapes? Like, why was it such a big deal? And certainly one of the reasons has to be that there's a beautiful order to existence that we can see all around us if we just have the eyes to see it. And that's definite, but I think there's a more important thing that the ancients were pointing to, and that's that each of us has the square and the circle operating inside of ourselves, you know? And that we are all predisposed with these traits, you know, the square is that part of us that says, I'm certain and definite, I know for absolute definite that this is the case, and I'm not listening to any other point of view, you know. The circle is more like, oh man, wow, I believe in, yeah, that alien race, talking to that alien race, they're in the High Council with the fairies and the, you know, we can open our minds so much with the circle that we run the risk of our brain falling out. So what the marriage of the circle and the square do is they kind of bring into balance these two attributes within ourselves. Okay, so to end, I wanted to end with a thought experiment, okay? And I wanted to launch a kind of a trigger topic at everybody, just to see how you react, to see can you identify the square or the circle in yourself, just in relation to this topic. And the trigger topic I've chosen is crop circles. So this is a subject that's very dear to my heart. And I just wanted you to examine, when I mentioned the topic crop circle, you know, how do you react? You don't have to tell anyone, you don't have to tell me, you know, but are you, you know, open to the potential majesty that's there, or do you think there could be like quite a straightforward explanation for it? And you can kind of play around with, is the square arising or the circle arising in you, just in relation to this topic. But just to close, okay, this particular crop circle is one of my favourites, and it appeared overnight in 2002 in a field in Wiltshire. And if you look, it's a human DNA helix, and it's actually made up of 1,296 little squares, little diamonds, okay? But the ratio of standing crop to settled crop is 504 are standing and 792 are laid flat. So this is, in my opinion, a reference to that squared circle, the grand squared circle in the sky between the Earth and the Moon. And what I love about this is that the human DNA kind of places our very, very special position in the universe as like kind of standing between both the heavenly dimensions of the circle, you know, and the earthly qualities of the square. And that maybe, perhaps, our task is to engage in the synthesis of both. Thank you very much, it's been a pleasure.